So we've got a couple of videos to go over what's been going on in the last 24 hours. We'll just get into it.
Did you see the damage done to the Kuwaiti base?
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
Actually, Lisa, if you can show it now, we can start there, actually, if it's ready. Were you surprised?
No, only in the sense that the things that hit that base were most likely not ballistic missiles. They were most likely drones. Drones are getting through everywhere. They hit at least one, maybe two, hit Kuwait International Airport while full of passengers, while aircraft were taking off and landing. So Iran has a better capacity at these low and slow aircraft, suicide one-way drones, the Shahed drones, and cruise missiles than they have penetrating through ballistic missiles. And also, you have to see something. The one actual hit that we saw that was in a residential area was a Patriot missile that, as we call it, went stupid. It launched and then came back down in a residential area. So, but the U.S. bases like Ali al-Salam Air Base, Camp Bueling, RF John, Shuaibah Port, we don't generally see that damage until much later when somebody does a satellite analysis. But does it get through? Yes, it does. Do we admit it? No, we don't.
But it didn't surprise you at all? Because it was more extensive than I expected. It wasn't that big of an attack, but there were multiple impacts.
One of the things that we haven't got a good handle on is how many drones were fired at Kuwait yesterday. We know ballistic missiles, 2 or 3 ballistic missiles were fired there. But drones and cruise missiles, we really don't have a good handle on, mainly because we don't know that they're there till they hit, right? So even in a base like RF John or Ali Salam, you can get these leakers come through at low altitude. We really are awful at that defense, even with the Ukrainians that are there. The U.S. Army doesn't have any of the resources we would see in a country like Ukraine around a military base. We've been at this 98 days by my count, maybe 96 days full count of the war. And I have never seen U.S. armed forces in a foreign country with 50 caliber machine guns or, other than the Gatling guns that they put on bases, right? CRAM. We're not seeing them actively defend themselves. They're depending on the host nation to provide the air defense, where a 50 caliber machine gun at 4 corners of a base, or 4 or 6 of them around that base, is pretty good defense against Shahed drones. That and spotlights. So I have no idea why we're
17 ballistic missiles and 13 UAVs.
The American troops are too pussy. We'll just call it what it is. The same thing's happening with the IDF. They haven't got the minerals. Watch. The Russians shooting them down and sometimes getting hit. Defending the motherland. The Iranians. We don't even need to speak about the steadfastness of the Iranian people. The Americans haven't got the minerals, man. They just run.
15, according to Kuwait, expensive. 15 cruise missiles. No, that's total. Sorry. Yeah. So in this attack, they've intercepted 13. They were intercepting 13 ballistic missiles and 17 UAVs. This is the damage inside the airport. That's civilian.
Yeah, that's the airport.
That's civilian. Yeah, that's not, because there were talks about it being a dual-use airport, which is true. It's used for military, from what I understand, military aircraft. But the area of it that was struck is a civilian area.
Yeah, that's the main terminal. And the Iranians are making a point. You recall about 2 months ago, they started their campaign by hitting all the fuel storage tanks at that airport, just to make it clear to the Kuwaitis that they had the ability to turn off flights by deliberately targeting the main terminal, right, with multiple drones. They're sending more than a message. That airport does not use military aircraft for the most part. KIA, Kuwait International Airport. They have Ali al-Salam Air Base and they have Ahmed Jabir air bases. They could have just concentrated on those. But sometimes you have to get the attention of your opponents by hitting them in an asymmetric way. So by impacting in a civilian infrastructure like an airport, you're guaranteeing no one's coming to that airport anytime soon. except for people that absolutely must come into it. So the Iranians, as you know, we talked about this yesterday, what you call horizontal, escalation. I call it lateral escalation. They were just making a point. And the place, Kuwait defended against the ballistic missiles. Patriots are good for that, even though one Patriot struck in a local residential area. They did a pretty good job. It's the small stuff, drones, that get through, especially if you're not expecting drones to hit your main air terminal. So your air defense, it still has holes in it. The Kuwaitis are still allowing leakers in it. And the nature of Kuwait as a built-up area is one of those things. I helped liberate the Kuwait.
Liberate. Oh, did you, Malcolm? You helped liberate them.
Kuwait City back in Desert Storm. I was extensively through that city. I've been back several times. The built-up areas, the apartments, the hotels, all these things are on the coast, right? All the neighborhoods are on the coast. So if a drone gets through at low altitude, right, once it pops up and rises to come over that urban area, you're not going to see it at one of these bases until the last minute. It's going to come down because it's going to be lost in the ground clutter. And I don't know if Kuwait's air defense has pushed out or is situated deeply on the coast, but I don't think it is. And that is a geographic fault that their military has. If I were the Kuwaitis, like I said, I helped liberate that city. I would have all of my air defense radars on Bubiyan Island, Qasr, and Felaka Island, which, as you know, Felaka Island was pretty much razed during Desert Storm. They dropped thousands of bombs on it.
So while you were there liberating Kuwait, they dropped thousands of bombs on the islands as well. But yeah, that liberates them, mate, 100%. So we're going to get into the next one. So now, Mario and Alex get into the phone call from yesterday. I'll keep my opinions till the end. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, in the Gulf yesterday was a pretty crazy day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole ceasefire fantasy, the illusion of a ceasefire, crumbled. Right, this illusion that there's some sort of a ceasefire, there's some sort of negotiations. It's the curtain is being pulled. We even had Rubio speaking to the Senate and telling the Senate, look, yes, negotiations are going on and all of this stuff, but it's very difficult because right now what we have is we have a type of courier service that is playing out, which is passing messages between us and Iran. I actually use the word courier. And then he said, and then we have the problem that the Iranian leaders are hiding because they don't want to get assassinated. I mean, how can you have negotiations if this is the dynamic? It's impossible that you can have any kind of negotiations. This is not going anywhere. Once again, unless the two sides sit down at a table and talk to each other, and they're not even close. They're not even close to talking to each other. We're at a waiting game. The Trump administration believes they can wait out Iran. Iran believes they can wait out the United States. That's how this thing's going to go. And every couple of days, the U.S. is going to strike Iran, and they're going to say self-defense. Iran is going to strike various targets in the region, and they're going to say that they're striking these targets out of retaliation. And this is how this thing is going to continue until we can get the two sides at a table at the same location talking to one another. I don't see how this thing can move forward. And Trump is trying to buy time. He's saying we speak with Iran every day. 4 days ago, we spoke to Iran. He said 3 days ago, 2 days ago. And meanwhile, you have the IRGC saying we've never spoken to Trump, right? So, I mean, each side is just trying to buy time.
Did you see the interview that Netanyahu and the interview that Trump did today?
With the New York Post? Yeah.
The New York Post is the Trump one. You saw it? Or I can surprise you with what he said. Oh, damn it. All right, I'll tell you anyway. The part I want to ask you about is he threw him under the bus, threw Netanyahu under the bus. He admitted the phone call was real. And then Netanyahu did an interview about an hour later saying, I'm not going to comment on the details of the phone call, but we have good calls, we have bad calls. I don't know. Is this different this time? No.
I think this is theater. I think this is good cop, bad cop. I've been saying this for a while now. It's good cop, bad cop. It's theater. You know, they plant that story. To me, this is how I think. This is how I think this went down.
Agree.
Axios puts this story out there that there's this phone call. There probably was a phone call, and Trump probably is frustrated with everything. No doubt about it. And Trump's frustration is that he can't figure out a way to win this thing, or at least to market this as a win. Right? So he can't figure it out, and there really is no way he can spin this to a victory. So he's frustrated. So I'm positive that there was some sort of exchange, and Trump was frustrated with everything that's happening. Now Axios spins this as Trump being the person who is in charge, who has leverage over Netanyahu and over Israel. There's a reason that they want to spin it like this, because people are talking, and they are saying that Trump is the subordinate. Trump is not the superior. Trump is not the main player in all of this. He's taking orders from Netanyahu, and this is hurting Trump. It's hurting his image, and so they had to spin this some way. And so you plant this story, you get the story out there. There's a contentious phone call that takes place. Officials go to Axios and they say, "Oh man, Trump really steamrolled Netanyahu. He's the boss. He's the president. He's peace through strength. He's a strong guy. He's the good cop. Netanyahu is being thrown under the bus as a bad cop." And then you get this interview next day with the New York Post, where the question from the journalist is, "Did you really say that?" And Trump says, "Yeah, of course I said that." But you look at the way he said it. Yes, he throws Netanyahu under the bus, but he also gives Netanyahu an off ramp as well, an exit ramp, where he says, "Well, we have a good relationship with Bibi," and all of this stuff as well. So he kind of balances it out. I mean, the whole thing is planned and scripted, in my opinion. That's how I would call this. I could be wrong. Maybe this really did happen, but nothing about it feels genuine.
Nothing at all. Regarding the USA and Israel is genuine at all. That's 100% certain, like. But we'll get into the next one. We've got Professor Marandi speaking on the latest updates in Iran. Always worth watching. Any channels you see him on, get on them. He's a wealth of knowledge and a true patriot in the greatest sense of the word.
They've been talking about invading an island, even a limited invasion. They've been talking about targeting islands such as these militarily in the medium term, long term plan for the war. Iran, what are Iran's calculations here in terms of how it responds to every U.S. ceasefire violation from here?
The Iranians believe that the United States, if it has an opportunity to attack Iran, to bomb Iran and get away with it, it will do it. And the only way to create deterrence is to make Trump and Netanyahu pay a very high price. And we've seen that throughout this war, that Iran does not escalate. It does not initiate war. It does not escalate. But in this war, what it did was that when there was escalation, it would hit back very hard. And we saw that, for example, when they hit Iran's South Pars gas field, the Iranians retaliated and hit the Atari gas field very hard, and the Emirati installations very hard, and that caused Trump to put out a Truth Social saying that this won't happen again. So Iran believes that they have to respond with strength. During the last couple of skirmishes, the U.S. again, they initiated the skirmishes. The Iranians responded, and this time the Iranians responded much harder, with a very significant strike to send Trump a message, and the Trump regime a message that we are not intimidated, and we're going to make you regret whatever you do against Iran. And I think the Iranians feel very confident about their position, militarily speaking. And we also saw that in Lebanon when the Netanyahu regime said that they were going to strike Beirut. The Iranians then said that they're going to start firing missiles at northern Palestine. And the and then that we saw the Trump Netanyahu phone call and or two phone calls apparently, and Trump allegedly or supposedly used the F word when speaking to Netanyahu and so on. But regardless of what we think about that conversation and about the Axios report, because Axios is not an honest outlet and not a reliable one, but if let's assume that this conversation actually did take place, which is quite plausible in this particular case, that I think indicates that the Americans understand and the Trump regime understands Iran's strength, and it knows that Iran has the upper hand. So in the case of Lebanon, the Iranians say that enough is enough. You bomb Beirut or any part of Beirut, we're going to pound northern Israel. And Ansarullah in Yemen has also said that they will get involved. And but simultaneously, the siege on the Strait of Hormuz, which is a double-edged sword for Trump, that siege is also wrecking the global economy. So the Iranians know that the United States needs a deal. Trump needs a deal. Today, Trump said that he can wait till September, but I don't think that's really based on what experts on the energy market and economists are saying. He doesn't have that sort of time. So the Iranians, in addition to threatening to strike the Israelis, and they were prepared, they were going to strike the Israeli regime yesterday early in the morning. But then when they backed down, they decided to wait. But if they do strike Beirut, the Iranians will hit them. But in any case, alongside that, the Iranians said we're no longer going to send messages to the United States. In other words, the messages that went back and forth to see if they can strike a deal, the Iranians have said we're not interested right now until the situation in Lebanon becomes changes. Now, that, of course, is a message to Trump, saying that if you don't do something about Lebanon and Gaza, because Iran has said clearly that Iran has from the beginning said it's the entire region. But they also, in a couple of days ago, named Gaza. They named Gaza instead of just saying the entire region. They said Lebanon and Gaza. So Trump knows that if there is another wave of missiles and airstrikes between the two sides, then this MOU or this potential agreement would go back weeks at least, and that would be catastrophic for the U.S. economy. So I think that the Iranians feel that they are in a strong position. Of course, that doesn't mean that the United States will not strike. That doesn't mean the Israeli regime will not strike. But the Iranians do feel that they're in a strong position.
And there you go. And the thing is, a lot of people, especially here in the UK, with the marches for Palestine, people showing solidarity with the Lebanese, the Palestinians, think what you want about the Iranian regime. Iran are the only ones actually standing up for these people, actually willing to sacrifice something for these people. Don't forget that. When you watch the BBC and read the headlines they put out, always do your research, that's all I'll say, but that's today's update.